G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff. I'm your host, the author David Applegate. The Four Lies of Feminism is a collection of the 4 most common critiques of feminism. We all know feminism is a political movement, not a social movement. It is not based on rights. It only uses the word rights as a political cudgel, a talking point, a rallying cry. Every empire needs a unifying factor, and every empire needs an enemy. So for feminism, the unifying factor is female rights, and their enemy, of course, is the patriarchy. But in fact, every feminist goal is the matriarchy. Now, it's been pointed out to me that they believe feminists are lying about being fed up with feminism. No, there are people who are female writing critiques of feminism. Some of them openly call feminism sexual predatory behaviour, whereby they call out feminism in detail and describe feminism as sexual predatory behaviour, where they use feminism to degrade other women from the dating pool by getting other women to be toxic. Now, women are the biggest critics of each other. Feminism has come under critique from other women en masse. Usually occurs outside of male spheres, but occasionally books come out. People don't write books for a grift. Usually they are too timely it takes years to make. We're not talking about these AI little cheapies here. We're not talking about AI here. We're talking about someone who put a lot of thought and a lot of work into academics. And so, no, I think there are definitely a lot of performance feminists, though they're usually grifters who perform as feminists to sell books about feminism. It's cheaper and easier for women to make money by selling books, even today, still. It's easier and cheaper and more politically advantageous to write a book than to criticize feminism. You are ostracized. Even if you can convince people it was a performance, doesn't matter, you're still ostracized. So, no, there might be a few women who, put on a la-di-da act of being a trad wife to get a man. That's different. That's predatory behaviour of a feminist. That's a behaviour of an individual, and women have been doing that all along. Don't mix up predatory behaviour against those with genuine disgust. It's like most of these women who don't like feminists are not very loud, except outside of the anti-feminist movements and subreddits. But in general, there are many academics now anti-feminist, and they face severe backlash from their colleagues. But I think 20 years ago, they would have lost their places in university. But today, no. There are many who quietly realize that feminism has gone too far. Now, before I continue with the 4 lies, I would like to remind you that this channel is sponsored by you, the viewing audience. Empire of Elves, that's one word, Empire of Elves. .myshopify.com, your one-stop shop for enchanting treasures based on my writing. There's the Emperor, Cade, and his prime wife, Sora. Now I'm doing an art book in conjunction with a couple of artists on Sora. That's because she was the most requested of all the characters. So the Empire of Elves, where science and technology meets fantasy, hope, and wonder. You're enchanting treasures based on my writing. Support the channel today. Thank you for your support. Right. So rather than showing you raging women on TikTok, there's plenty of channels who do that. Just going to try and educate y'all briefly. I'll just race through the 4 lies, shall I? Or the equality of outcome. Right. One of the most common myths today is the assumption that men and women are entirely identical in their desires, traits, and biology. This is a neo-Marxist inversion of liberalism. Liberalism talks about equality, so Marxism and neo-Marxism has inverted this equality of the law to equality full stop. Believe it or not, liberalism used to be a right-wing ideology. Now, the idea that there are no differences has led many women upset because their careers don't earn as much as, say, a secretary doesn't earn as much as firemen. Their careers tend to earn less, a nurse earning less than a doctor. But we're both in the medical field, so this is drive, pardon me, there's this drive to basically attack anything that is different as discrimination and systemic oppression, where in fact the general consensus is women can lift around 25% less than men and 11% less productive in general metrics, but in some areas they're up to 73%. And the age does take into consideration here. But when it comes to the amount women generate in GDP, remember, it's mostly, it may be large sums of money, but generally 73% of women's spending is primarily on their on what we would call unnecessaries, right? They buy the more expensive brand. They buy too much underwear. They buy too many clothes. They buy too many shoes. They buy and overconsume. Now, in terms of GDP, you may think numbers go up. The problem is the value of all these goods, because it's such a highly competitive market, actually goes down. And then you have the problem of the waste they generate. It's very costly. And more, of course, the production, you could dyes, petrochemicals for these dyes, they create more problems, and they don't create enough revenue to cover the health problems for the workers in these industries. And now they're getting problems with, because overproduction, highly competitive, so profits are low. So in terms of GDP and numbers, but tax revenue is down. And as men stop dating, they stop subsidizing women's lifestyles. So because governments rely on numbers must go up, the whole idea of equality and equity, that's why there's a shift to that focus, because the government needs the money to keep buying the women's vote. So if they solve this alleged gender pay gap, it all starts to fall apart. But if it's exposed as a myth, if individual jobs, if everyone's jobs is paid the same, this whole equality of outcome is a myth generated by Marxists to get you all to lower, well, in most part, women think they're going to get paid, the same as Gwyneth Paltrow. No, you're never going to get that money. You're going to get everybody on the lowest income. And those with jobs with very expensive overheads aren't going to take those jobs. You're going to struggle to find anyone who's going to care about women if you keep pushing to lower the wages of men. Now, there's also the pay gap. Women earn less because you work less, you produce less. You take sales jobs and you take twice as long as... And this is an area where some women do succeed. So you're going to tell women who earn more commissions to give up their commissions to those who don't work as hard or as often or as successfully. Because no, even when it comes to sales, and you never see this equality of outcome with women where they go to buy something and they'll buy it off a man, or they'll shop around for the bargain for themselves, and then they expect, to be six-figure incomes. And not all stores are on commission. In fact, there's minimum sales targets. And often the bonuses only go to the stores that meet those sales targets. So what are you going to do? You're going to take away all the sales targets, are you? You're going to take women don't know the can of worms this equality or equity is. All they think about is they're going to earn more, so they keep whining. That's it. Not realising that they're just a political butt plug. All right, so the second myth, that motherhood and domestic roles are oppression. A common critique of traditional lifestyles, particularly religious lifestyles, by modern feminism, is that motherhood and domestic roles are oppression. Modern feminists prioritise corporate careers over family life. You notice it's always corporate careers. Now, as someone pointed out rudely, that there are millions of corporations. No, there are 53,000 public corporations. The rest are private companies. Women only prioritise those companies that are genuine corporate entities. That is multi-million, in most cases, multi-billion-dollar companies with wages ranging from $1 million to $50 to $100 million. Now, these corporate companies, even if there were millions of corporations, right? What? They're all going to pay $1 million a year? This corporate life, you look at it. You look at the decline in the last 25 years of corporations. It's either feminism or some sort of wokeness. No. This shift, right? Opponents of feminism has pointed out the shift since the 60s to prioritising women in work has led to a population decline. That less women and every generation gets smaller, the number of full-time mothers or homemakers, childcare, yet, right? What? Who's going to pay your pensions? Who's going to work? Oh, that's right. You say you make excuses about not bringing children in the world. So you're just going to hand the world over to the third world. That's what you really want. Just say it. Just say you want genocide, so we know and move on from it. Okay? At least the women in Korea, the 4B movement, openly admits now they want genocide of Koreans. They didn't get what they want, and so they're having a hissy fit. That's what it really is. The devaluation of motherhood and domestic roles. They want the pony. They want to be like Daddy. Daddy got to go out. Daddy got a car. Daddy goes out with his friends. Yeah. Daddy got no time for me. I'm going to make the world a better place. Yeah. All this whining. Never got women. What have we got out of it? Cracker Barrel? The destruction of entertainment? The destruction of how many brands? I mean, how many corporations? They have actually decreased. I mean, we look at Cracker Barrel. And I know it's the only one that can come to mind now, because most of the time when you're doing research, you only get the latest news. Trying to research when you don't have a lot of resources. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure if you look at, most of it, the corporations that go under clothing brands, luxury goods, restaurants, entertainment of many kinds, not just the movie industry, when they become female dominated, they lose value. Look at books. Women dominate. How many authors? Is it 90% of book deals go to women? And look at it. How many noteworthy books in the last decade? And they're only promoted by female journalists. Most of the journalists are female. So you see a huge devaluation of motherhood by people who want to cope and see, because they think that, I'm going to get to 40 and I'm going to have a child and because I'll have all the resources. But they forget the cost of life and the cost of living. They've driven, right, these no incomers, these no children incomers drive up the cost of living, want everything given to them, right? They turn 40 and they want everything to be in place, but they give nothing. The want it all crowd end up the most miserable and the most destructive people on the planet. And it really is. Number two, like the devaluation of motherhood and domestic roles, they wanted women to be paid. Maternity leave. You got maternity leave, childbirths didn't go up, they went down. Every time they get what they want, free medical care, did life improve? No, went down. More money for education results went down. Nothing they have achieved is positive. Just look at the homeless situation in California. Billions spent on what? It all goes to NGOs who what? Hire predominantly women. And what do these women do? They soak up all the money and nothing gets done for the homeless. Now, the third myth, the framing of men as oppressor and women as victims. Again, this is neo-Marxism. This is pretty much turning the worldview into it's pretty a misandrist, female suppress. Like if men did this or white people did this, they would be attacked. But when women do it, they're celebrated and celebrate each other. It's if you don't understand that feminism is hypocrisy, but many relationships are damaged. And critics of feminism say this narrative has done the most widespread damage. It's destroyed relationships, which was the goal of Marxism, by the way, because relationships took away from the political awareness of the individual, right? So they've destroyed relationships, fostered resentment, all on purpose. For what? You're not having children. They're not going to inherit. They're not going to adopt Marxism. They're going to impose the same the third world is going to impose the same ideological rigid hierarchies they have in their own countries on what's left of the West. So feminism is nothing but a performative rampage by narcissists who want nothing more than to play the victim while they manipulate and drain society using the leverage of the vote. If the majority of women are so miserable, stop voting blue and you'll see things get better. No matter what Republicans do for your vote, you always hate them, and yet you always complain. No matter what we say, you don't listen, so, men walking away. As you get older, there's going to be more resistance, not less. No one's going to like you. No one's going to pity you. Now, 4, the promise of complete independence and happiness. The feminism has made a false promise. Look around. Autonomy from men? Who's going to open your pickle jar? Who builds your buildings? Who does the electricians? Again, total autonomy from the traditional family. Are you happy? No. Most social commentators point to the plethora of misery and hatred. Every weekend, there's somewhere a feminist march. What have we got? We have an increase in mental health amongst women. We have an increased suicide rate amongst women. We have a loneliness epidemic amongst women. We have, in fact, there are more lonely women than lonely men. I don't have the exact percentages because it varies by country. But those who have abandoned traditional interdependent relationships are not fulfilled. They don't lead better lives. In fact, women have a 27 to 31% decrease in income. Usually either directly as they work less hours or because they have to go home and feed the cats, or worse, their spending goes up. So they're trying to make up they get cats because they're trying to make up for not having children. And cats are the easiest to take care of. They're more like women. You forget to feed the cat, you don't have to worry about it. Unless you locked it inside, it's gone. In fact, most cats are getting three squares a day. Feminists love cats because they have no loyalty, just like a feminist. Feline feminist, yes. Now, there is something fundamental. Men can survive without women. Women's outcomes are dependent directly and indirectly on men. Women cannot produce enough goods and services to sustain themselves. That's the fundamental. But if people understood, which they don't and still don't care, that the priority of feminism is to destroy the nuclear family, to instigate Marxism, to turn society into homosexuals, and to basically annihilate the West. It is not a long-term political. Its goal is, well, you look at, and you only have to look at leading activists. The majority are not from the West. We have a parasitical class amongst us who turned our own women against us to destroy us, and it has been done time and time again throughout history. There are over 6 civilizations before us that have ended completely without a clue left behind. And it all points to degeneracy. Men and women not having children, prioritizing sex with animals and homosexuality, and just before the great collapse of their population, a small portion of their population flees in all directions as refugees. And it goes over and over and over again, spreading the same ideas over and over again. Now, why? Because initially feminism is seen as harmless, and in fact, you've seen this with early stages of feminism. Women latch onto it, saying and feeling loud and proud, and they exercise their rights, and they voice their anger, and they take their anger and frustrations out on each other and on men. But ultimately, that doesn't achieve anything. You can't make the world a better place. Humans are fundamentally flawed, and the more women make men angry, the less valued you are to society, and the less children you produce, the less valued you are to society. And once you stop that valuing of and once society stops being homogeneous, you see the invasions, the riots, the looting, all these things have happened before. Feminism is so destructive, yet the people who instigate it take their wealth, blow it on luxuries, live a life of luxury, because they're homosexual or from other countries. They don't care what happens to the one they're in, because they'll just go to another. Feminism is not the answer, it is the problem. It has always been the problem. See, in order for feminism to work, you need oppression of the individual. You take away the individual's rights to choose. You want equal outcomes, you want equal pay, you want all the domestic roles someone else. You want your little nanny, you want your brown nannies and your brown mothers, and you want everything but motherhood, because it's the pain, or it's too much work. It gets to a point where men just say, you know what? Good riddance to you. You are a worthless, what they say in China, a dead leaf, a dead branch, right? You are worthless to society, right? What do you contribute? hot air. Okay? You're that little nasty that sits on the couch and says, honey, I think we're done. Why? Well, you're broke now. That's feminism. Right? No love, no loyalty. And fundamentally, you always think you're the victim. Yeah, the only thing you're a victim of is your own stupidity. And as for independence and happiness, yeah, go out in the woods and be independent. See how long that lasts. Because to be truly independent, you have to raise your own food, collect your own water, and build and maintain your own shelter. Men, this has been done time and time again. Men will build a shelter, fire pits. Heck, some guys get to the point where they're making their own electricity. And what do women do? Stand on a street corner and lift the hem of their skirt and say, $20 for 20 minutes. Yeah. Cracking open feminism is easy. The problem is women are not logical but emotional. And all they see is the 0.0000001% of becoming the CEO of a major corporation. And then they just cheer on the sisterhood. And no matter how much homeless, no matter no matter the population decline, the government debt, none of that means anything to them. All they care about is me, myself, and I. And that narcissistic attitude, there's no saving, right? People you just cannot save. And feminists, you can't save them. They're beyond salvation. They're the devil's fruit. They're unfaithful. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below, in my profile. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.